Hey coin lovers! Welcome to the Worth Old Coins channel, your place to discover the hidden value and rare facts about old coins. In today's video we're revealing the top 5 valuable coins, and one of them might just be in your collection. So don't skip this video, let's find out their real worth. Top 1. The Elizabeth II 2 pence coin of 1989 belongs to the United Kingdom's decimal coinage series and stands as a small yet telling witness to the economic, cultural, and numismatic story of Britain in the late 20th century. The denomination itself, introduced in 1971, was part of the decimalisation reform that replaced the old pound shillings pence system with a straightforward structure of 100 pence to the pound, a major monetary transition in British history. By the year 1989, the 2 pence coin was already an established part of the nation's daily commerce, used in everything from purchasing newspapers to operating vending machines, slot machines, and payphones, and had become familiar to generations of Britons who no longer remembered the complexity of pre-decimal money. On the obverse of the 1989 coin, we see the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by the sculptor Raphael David Maklauf and first introduced in 1985. This effigy presents the Queen facing right and wearing the George IV state diadem, the jeweled crown traditionally worn at the state opening of Parliament, which features roses, thistles, shamrocks, crosses, and fleurs-de-lis, symbolizing the unity of England, Scotland, Ireland, and monarchy itself. Unlike earlier portraits, Maklauf's design aimed to create a more sculptural and idealized representation, emphasizing grace, dignity, and timelessness. It has a strikingly formal quality that reflects the stability of Elizabeth's middle reign. His initials RDM can be seen at the base of the Queen's neck. Around the portrait is the customary legend, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1989 inch, an abbreviated Latin inscription meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen Defender of the Faith, connecting the coin not only to her constitutional authority as sovereign but also to her religious role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England. The reverse of the 1989 2 pence coin was designed by Christopher Ironside, the talented artist responsible for all the original decimal coin reverses of 1971. It features the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales composed of 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet with a ribbon bearing the motto, Ich diene, which translates from German as I serve. This badge has been associated with the heir apparent to the English and later British throne since the 14th century, when Edward the Black Prince adopted it after the Battle of Crecy. By 1989, it still symbolized continuity, tradition, and the Prince of Wales's duty of service at that time, embodied in Prince Charles, eldest son of Queen Elizabeth II. Beneath the feathers and coronet is the denomination expressed both in words and numerals, 2 pence, along with the large number 2 ensuring clarity. It is worth noting that the wording had originally read new pence from 1971 until 1981 to help the public distinguish decimal from pre-decimal issues, but since 1982 the inscription was simplified to 2 pence, as by then decimalization was fully established. From a technical standpoint, the 1989 2 pence coin was struck in bronze, an alloy made of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, which gave the coin its distinctive reddish-brown color when new, though in circulation coins often darken toned or developed patina. The weight was 7.12 grams, the diameter 25.91 millimeters, with a thickness of around 2.03 millimeters, and the edge was smooth and plain without any milling or inscription. These specifications had been consistent for the 2 pence since its introduction in 1971, and would remain so until 1992, when the Royal Mint, facing rising copper prices, shifted to copper-plated steel instead of solid bronze. As such, the 1989 issue is part of the classic bronze series and is prized by some collectors for its true bronze status. The mintage for circulation in 1989 was high, as the coin was a standard everyday denomination, so most surviving examples are very common and still found in change decades later. For this reason, circulated 1989 2 pence coins hold only their face value, though coins preserved in brilliant uncirculated condition or included in proof sets are of more interest to numismatists, as they capture the fine detail of Maklauf's regal portrait and Ironside's heraldic artistry, and the broader historical and cultural context the 1989 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin symbolizes. Both tradition and modernity, why this year decimalization was no longer new but completely ingrained in the British way of life, yet the coin still carried heraldic imagery dating back centuries, reminding citizens of the enduring monarchy and its heirs. For those using it in their everyday lives, it may have been nothing more than a small bronze disc used in shops, buses, or arcades, but in its design it carried with it the motto of service, the emblem of the Prince of Wales, and the dignified image of the Queen. Coins of this era also serve as nostalgic relics for many people today, recalling the everyday economy of the late 1980s, a period marked by political change, economic reform, and cultural transformation in the United Kingdom. While it was a common piece, the 1989 2p can now be appreciated as a piece of history that embodies the reign of Elizabeth II, the work of skilled artists like Maclauff and Ironside, and the lasting role of coinage as both a tool of commerce and a symbol of national identity. In conclusion, the 1989 Elizabeth II 2p coin is far more than a simple bronze token of low monetary value. It represents the culmination of almost 2 decades of decimal coinage, the middle years of Elizabeth II's reign, and the continuity of the monarchy through the Prince of Wales's badge. Its obverse links it directly to the Queen styled in Maclauff's formal regal vision, while its reverse ties it to centuries of heraldic tradition. Though millions were minted and it remains common, its historical significance lies in its role as both a practical medium of exchange and a cultural artifact of late 20th century Britain. For collectors, historians, and ordinary people alike, the coin is a reminder of how much history and symbolism can be carried by even the humblest denomination. Top 2. The Elizabeth II 2p coin of 1987 is a fascinating part of the United Kingdom's decimal coinage series and represents a piece of everyday history tied directly to Queen Elizabeth II's long reign, the decimalisation era, and the continuing evolution of modern British currency. The 2p coin, originally introduced in 1971 at the time of full decimalisation, was designed as part of the new system that replaced the centuries-old pounds, shillings, and pence structure, and by 1987 it had become a familiar denomination in British pockets, serving as both a practical coin for small everyday transactions and a symbolic continuation of the decimal journey. On the obverse side of the 1987 2p, we see the official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Raphael David Maclauff, which was introduced in 1985 and used until 1997. This portrait is notable for its more regal and formal representation compared to earlier effigies. The Queen is depicted facing right, wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown set with diamonds, pearls, crosses, and floral emblems, which she often wore for the state opening of Parliament. Maclauff's portrait emphasizes the dignity and maturity of the monarch, with a refined and highly detailed engraving that was meant to appear more sculptural and lasting. Around the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II D.G. Reg. FD 1987 inch, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen Defender of the Faith. This not only identifies her as the reigning sovereign, but also reflects her dual role as monarch and supreme governor of the Church of England, a tradition that has existed since the reign of Henry VIII. Turning to the reverse of the 1987 2p coin, we find the design created by Christopher Ironside, which had been used on all 2p coins since 1971. The design displays the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales, which is a plume of 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet composed of a cross and fleur-de-lis, along with a ribbon bearing the German motto, Ich diene, meaning I serve. This emblem has been associated with the Prince of Wales since the 14th century and connects the coin to centuries of royal symbolism and tradition. Beneath the emblem is the denomination written as 2p, a change that had been made in 1982 to replace the earlier inscription New Pence, which was used from 1971 until 1981. The reason for the change was that by the early 1980s the decimal system had been fully adopted and the use of the word new was no longer necessary, as the old pre-decimal coins had been withdrawn. The number 2 appears prominently below the words to make the denomination clear. This reverse design remained in use on circulating coins until 2008, when a complete redesign of UK coinage introduced a new reverse based on the Royal Shield of Arms. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1987 2p coin was made of bronze, an alloy of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, which gave the coin its reddish-brown metallic appearance. The coin weighs 7.12 grams, measures 25.91 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain smooth edge with no lettering or reading. These specifications remained unchanged from its introduction in 1971 until 1992, when the Royal Mint switched to copper-plated steel for 2p coins in order to reduce costs as copper prices increased. This means that the 1987 issue belongs to the earlier period of solid bronze strikes, which many collectors regard as more traditional and aesthetically pleasing than the later copper-plated steel issues. Millions of 2p coins were struck in 1987 for circulation, making them common in everyday commerce, and as a result most surviving examples today are worth only their face value unless found in exceptionally high grades such as brilliant uncirculated or in proof sets. However, the true value of the coin is not in rarity but in its historical and cultural significance. Historically, the 1987 Elizabeth II 2p coin reflects an era of stability in British currency. It was a period when the decimal system was well established, when the Royal Mint's designs had settled into familiar patterns, and when the British people had fully adjusted to using pence and pounds in a decimal format. It also marks part of the middle years of Elizabeth II's reign, a time when Britain was undergoing social and economic change, and yet coins such as this 2 pence provided a daily reminder of continuity, tradition, and monarchy. The reverse design with the Prince of Wales feathers tied the coin to the heir apparent Prince Charles, giving it an additional royal dimension. For numismatists and casual collectors alike, the 1987 issue stands as a solid representative of late 20th century British coinage, simple, functional, dignified, and steeped in heraldic symbolism. While not rare, it carries with it the story of Britain's money, its monarchy, and its modernization. In short, the 1987 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin is more than a small bronze disc. It is a tangible piece of history that reflects the artistry of Macklouf and Ironside, the heritage of the British Crown, and the ongoing journey of the United Kingdom's coinage from its decimal birth in 1971 to the modern designs of today. Top 3. The Elizabeth II 2 pence coin of 1978 is part of the early decimal coinage of the United Kingdom, and it reflects both the transitional history of Britain's monetary system and the artistry of its coin designers during Queen Elizabeth II's reign. The denomination itself was first issued in 1971, when the country officially abandoned the old pound, shillings, and pence system which had existed for centuries, and adopted the modern decimal currency based on 100 pence to the pound. Because the decimal system was new, the word "new pence" was inscribed on the reverse of coins from 1971 until 1981 to distinguish them from the older pre-decimal pennies and halfpennies, and thus the 1978 2 pence coin carries this inscription. On the obverse of the 1978 issue, we find the second official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, which had been introduced in 1968 and was designed by the sculptor Arnold McKim. This effigy depicts the Queen facing right, wearing the "Girls of Great Britain and Ireland" tiara, a jewel inherited from Queen Mary that became one of Elizabeth's most iconic royal adornments. McKim's portrait is softer, youthful, and elegant, designed to present the monarch in a graceful style that would last across decades of coinage. Surrounding the portrait is the traditional Latin legend, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1978 inch, which expands to Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen Defender of the Faith. This ancient formula underscores both her constitutional authority as sovereign and her religious role as supreme governor of the Church of England. The reverse of the coin, created by Christopher Ironside, displays the famous heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales, an emblem deeply tied to the British royal family and its history. The design shows 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet, which itself consists of a cross and fleur-de-lis. Across the feathers is a ribbon inscribed with the German motto, Ich diene, meaning "I serve," a motto traditionally associated with the Prince of Wales since the 14th century, when it was adopted by Edward the Black Prince. Beneath this heraldic emblem, the words "new pence" are clearly inscribed, emphasizing the decimal nature of the coin along with the denomination number 2, ensuring clarity for users who were still adjusting to the relatively new monetary system in the 1970s. This reverse design remained unchanged until 1982, when the inscription was altered to 2 pence, since by then the public was fully accustomed to decimalization. From a technical perspective, the 1978 2 pence coin was struck in bronze N alloy composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, giving it a warm reddish-brown tone when freshly minted, although coins that circulated heavily would often darken or acquire patina from handling. The coin weighs 7.12 grams, measures 25.91 millimeters in diameter, and has a smooth plain edge with no lettering. These dimensions and composition were standard for 2 pence coins until 1992, when the rising cost of copper forced the Royal Mint to adopt a copper-plated steel version. The 1978 issue belongs firmly in the Bronze era, and thus represents the original character of Britain's decimal bronze coinage. As for mintages, large numbers of 2 pence coins were produced for circulation during the 1970s, including the 1978 issue, meaning that in worn condition the coin is not rare and typically worth only its face value. However, uncirculated examples or coins preserved in proof sets and mint condition are of more interest to collectors, as they showcase the sharp details of both McKim's portrait and Ironside's heraldic design without the wear of circulation. Culturally and historically, the 1978 Elizabeth II 2 pence coin represents the maturing phase of Britain's decimal experiment. By this year, decimalization was fully accepted by the British public, and younger generations had grown up using decimal coins exclusively. Yet the continued use of the new pence inscription reveals how recent the change still was in historical terms, and how the authorities wanted to maintain clarity and avoid confusion with the old pennies that had been withdrawn earlier in the decade. It also highlights the way in which coins are not only instruments of commerce but also tools of education, guiding a population into a new financial system through careful design choices. The choice of the Prince of Wales badge for the reverse tied the coin to royal tradition and to the future of the monarchy, as the Prince of Wales at the time was Charles, the heir apparent. This link to the monarchy reinforced continuity in a period of economic and political change, reminding people that while the money system may have modernized, Britain's constitutional identity and traditions remained intact. And summary: the 1978 Elizabeth II 2-pence coin is not just a small bronze disc of little monetary value, but rather a piece of living history that tells the story of Britain's transition into a modern decimal age, the artistry of designers like Arnold Machin and Christopher Ironside, and the enduring symbolism of the monarchy. It reflects a time when the decimal system was still relatively fresh in the minds of the people, when bronze coins jingled in every pocket, and when each coin carried with it not only practical function but also national pride and cultural heritage. For collectors and historians alike, the 1978 2-pence coin serves as a window into the everyday life of Britain in the late 1970s, as well as a reminder of the deep connections between money, monarchy, and identity. Top 4. The Elizabeth II 2-pence coin of 1988 is a notable piece within the series of decimal British coins, representing both the everyday currency of the United Kingdom in the late 20th century and a chapter in the long story of Queen Elizabeth II's reign as reflected through her coinage. The denomination of 2 pence, 2p, had been introduced in 1971 at the time of decimalisation, when the UK abandoned the complex pre-decimal pound, shillings, and pence system that had survived for centuries, and instead embraced a simpler modern structure of 100 pence to the pound. By 1988, the 2-pence coin had already been in circulation for 17 years and had become a familiar feature of daily life, used for small purchases, vending machines, and as part of the loose change carried by millions of Britons. On the obverse of the 1988 coin, we find the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted by Raphael David Maklauf and introduced in 1985. This portrait presents the Queen facing right, adorned with the George IV state diadem, a crown decorated with diamonds, crosses, and floral emblems representing England, Scotland, and Ireland, which the Queen traditionally wore to the state opening of Parliament. Maklauf's effigy is noted for its more formal, regal, and somewhat idealized representation of the monarch, designed to be enduring and dignified. His initials RDM appear at the base of the neck, marking his authorship. Surrounding the portrait runs the legend, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1988, an abbreviation of the Latin Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen Defender of the Faith. This identifies her role not only as sovereign but also as Supreme Governor of the Church of England, a formula that links every coin directly to the authority of the Crown. The reverse design of the 1988 2-pence continues the work of Christopher Ironside, whose artistry had shaped the decimal coinage from its launch. At the center is the badge of the Prince of Wales, composed of 3 ostrich feathers rising from a coronet formed of a cross and fleur-de-lis. Across the feathers runs a ribbon bearing the centuries-old German motto, Ich diene, meaning I serve, which was first adopted by Edward the Black Prince in the 14th century, and has ever since been associated with the heir to the throne. Beneath this emblem, the denomination is clearly displayed as 2 pence, accompanied by the numeral 2. This inscription had replaced the earlier wording, new pence, in 1982, once the decimal system was firmly established and the old pre-decimal pennies were no longer in circulation. The change signified a natural step in Britain's adaptation to decimal money, showing how quickly the population had embraced the new system by the early 1980s. In terms of technical details, the 1988 2-pence coin was struck in bronze, an alloy of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. It weighed 7.12 grams, had a diameter of 25.91 millimeters, and a thickness of about 2.03 millimeters. The edge was plain, without reading or inscriptions. These specifications had remained unchanged since the denomination's debut in 1971, and would continue until 1992, when the composition was changed to copper-plated steel due to rising copper prices. Thus, the 1988 issue belongs to the traditional bronze era, making it especially appealing to collectors who prefer the original metallic quality of earlier decimal coins. The 1988 2-pence was struck in large numbers for circulation, ensuring that it was widely available in commerce, and as such most surviving examples today are common and worth only their face value unless preserved in brilliant uncirculated or proof condition. However, its historical value lies not in rarity but in its role as a witness to the everyday economy of late 1980s Britain. From a cultural and historical perspective, the 1988 Elizabeth II 2-pence coin is an emblem of continuity, stability, and heritage. By this point in her reign, Elizabeth II had already been on the throne for 36 years, and her image on coinage was a constant presence in the daily lives of her subjects. The Maklauf portrait emphasized a monarch who was mature, regal, and enduring, symbolizing not just personal authority but also national identity in an era of significant political and social change. The reverse, with its Prince of Wales badge, subtly reinforced the monarchy's dynastic continuity by alluding to Prince Charles, who held the title of Prince of Wales at that time, serving as heir apparent to the throne. The choice of motto coins.I serve connected the coin not only to heraldic tradition, but also to a broader message of duty, loyalty, and service values deeply woven into Britain's national fabric. In the pockets and purses of millions, the coin became part of the rhythm of daily commerce, yet its design spoke to history, monarchy, and symbolism that stretched back centuries. In conclusion, the 1988 Elizabeth II 2-pence coin is more than a simple bronze disc with small monetary value. It encapsulates the artistry of designers such as Raphael Maklauf and Christopher Ironside, the traditions of the British Crown, and the lived experience of the British people in the late 20th century. It bridges the practical function of currency with the deeper cultural role of coinage as a bearer of history, authority, and identity. For collectors today, it stands as an affordable yet meaningful piece of numismatic heritage, representing a time when bronze coins dominated the pockets of the nation, when decimalization was no longer new but fully integrated, and when the monarchy continued to present itself as both modern and rooted in centuries of tradition. In every sense, the 1988 2-pence is not only a coin, but also a historical artifact of Britain's monetary journey, a quiet witness to the reign of Elizabeth II, and a symbol of continuity at the heart of the everyday economy. Top 5. The Elizabeth II 2-pence coin of 1991 is an important part of the United Kingdom's decimal coinage system, representing both the heritage of Britain's monetary reform and the everyday utility of small-denomination coins under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. The 2-pence, 2p, coin had first been introduced in 1971, the year of decimalization, when Britain officially abandoned the old pounds shillings pence system and moved to a more modern decimal system based on 100 pence to the pound. By 1991, 2 decades after its launch, the 2-pence coin had firmly established itself in circulation, commonly used in everyday transactions, vending machines, slot-operated services, and children's pocket money. The obverse of the 1991 coin features the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by sculptor Raphael David Maklauf, which had been in use since 1985. This effigy presents the Queen facing right, wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown set with diamonds, pearls, and floral emblems symbolizing the unity of the United Kingdom's nations. Unlike earlier portraits, Maklauf's depiction is more formal, regal, and idealized, emphasizing grace and dignity. His initials RDM appear discreetly at the base of the neck. Around the portrait runs the inscription, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 1991, abbreviated Latin for Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This ancient formula ties every coin directly to the sovereign's authority while also acknowledging her role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England, thereby uniting monarchy, religion, and money in one enduring phrase. The reverse design of the coin, created by the talented artist Christopher Ironside, remained unchanged since 1971, continuing to display the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales. This design depicts 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a coronet made of a cross and fleur-de-lis with a ribbon inscribed with the historic German motto, Ich meaning I serve. This badge, linked with the heir apparent since the days of Edward the Black Prince in the 14th century, ties the coin not only to heraldry but also to the monarchy's future, as the then Prince of Wales Charles was heir to the throne. Beneath the emblem is the denomination clearly inscribed as 2 pence, alongside the large numeral 2. This inscription had replaced the earlier new pence legend, which was used between 1971 and 1981 BY 1991. The change to 2 pence had been in place for nearly a decade, reflecting the fact that decimalization was long accepted by the British public, making the new wording unnecessary. Technically, the 1991 2-pence coin was among the last years struck in the traditional bronze alloy composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. The coin weighed 7.12 grams, had a diameter of 25.91 millimeters, a thickness of about 2.03 millimeters, and a smooth plain edge. This bronze composition gave the coin a warm reddish-brown tone when freshly minted, though in circulation coins darkened, tarnished, or took on varied patinas depending on their usage. From a numismatic standpoint, 1991 holds a special position as it was one of the final years before the Royal Mint transitioned to copper-plated steel 2-pence coins in 1992. This shift was made to reduce minting costs as copper prices had risen considerably, making solid bronze coinage economically unsustainable. As such, the 1991 issue is historically interesting because it belongs to the last full generation of true bronze British 2-pence coins, and in terms of mintage, millions of 2-pence coins were struck in 1991 for circulation, making the coin common in general condition. Most examples found today in circulated grades carry little more than face value. However, uncirculated and proof versions, which were included in Royal Mint annual coin sets, are prized by collectors for their sharp detail, luster, and preservation. These coins in pristine condition showcase the fineness of Maklauf's portrait and the crispness of Ironside's heraldic design in a way that circulating examples often do not. Culturally and historically, the 1991 Elizabeth II 2-pence coin reflects stability and continuity in British coinage. By this time, the decimal system had been in place for 20 years, and the designs of the coins were well established in the national consciousness. The coin carried with it a sense of familiarity and dependability, an everyday object that connected the public not just to commerce but also to national identity. The obverse reminded users of the enduring reign of Elizabeth II, while the reverse connected them to the monarchy's dynastic continuity through the Prince of Wales. The motto Ich Dien reinforced themes of duty, loyalty, and service, ideals long associated with both monarchy and national life. For many Britons of the era, such coins were part of childhood pocket money savings jars or the change received in shops, and thus they hold nostalgic as well as numismatic significance. End conclusion. The 1991 Elizabeth II 2-pence coin is more than a small bronze piece of money. It is a product of artistry, heritage, and history. It unites the creative vision of Raphael Maklauf and Christopher Ironside with the traditions of the British crown, while also marking the closing chapter of the bronze coinage era before the transition to plated steel. Though common in circulation, it is a coin rich in symbolism, representing monarchy, tradition, and continuity at the heart of Britain's late 20th century economy. For collectors and historians alike, the 1991 2-pence coin is a modest yet meaningful artifact, an everyday witness to the reign of Queen Elizabeth II and a silent participant in the daily life of millions. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.